All right. Welcome. Welcome to the You Matter Show podcast. My name is Mark Brudzinski. I'm a published author, blogger, speaker, actually run an insurance division as well. And I have my You Matter movement, which is part of the 1 billion mission, where I'm trying to positively impact the lives of a billion people. And one way to do that is to get to know other people who are trying to impact lives and make a difference. So today I'm overjoyed to welcome Sally Allen of Sally Allen Coaching. Sally is a certified business coach and life coach, speaker, podcaster. We actually met a few months ago on a program called Mind Power Breakthrough with a couple that we love, Steph and Shay. And we got to know each other a little bit. We each have podcasts. They're hopefully doing important things and impactful things in the world. So I'm thrilled to have Sally join us. So welcome, Sally.
Thank you so much. I am honored to be on your podcast. I love what you do. I love what you stand for. I just absolutely love the You Matter movement. I just can't wait to hear more about it from you. But this is your podcast. So what am I talking about?
Yeah, I'm going to be on your podcast next, but today it's mine, right?
Yes,
So what
exactly.
are you talking about? So we're going to talk about you. We want to learn more about you
Okay.
and your life and what you're trying to do in the world to make a difference, which is important anytime. I mean, nowadays they're saying we're in a recession, but anytime that there is life, right? We all should be trying to improve other people's lives.
Yes.
So I want to ask you two questions I'd like to start with. So what would you consider, Sally, your greatest accomplishment in life so far and your greatest challenge in life so far?
Gosh. Um, my greatest accomplishment so far has been my book. And the reason why that's been such an accomplishment because we don't do that in my culture, talk about our personal lives, and it's there's such stigma around that, right? Talking about personal life, putting it out there. It was very shocking to my family when I did that, and I knew there would be some ramifications when I did that. I just didn't expect the extent of it. So I've been through so much that at one point I buried my book and I had to resurrect it. I realized it's so powerful writing that book, and I feel like with everything I've gone through in life and writing that book, and then went through after the book, that's one of my biggest accomplishments because I can still stand resiliently and say I have gone through a lot, and I can share it with people. Hand them a book.
Give us the name of your book.
It's Triumph Over Failure and Fear, and it's on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and whatever platform sells books.
So give us a synopsis of that. So triumph over failure and fear. What would you say if you had to give us a 1 minute description of it?
I would say, look, it doesn't matter what you've gone through in life or what you're going through, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. You have to find your hope in the midst of it. You have to find that lifeline that you're hanging on to, whether it's people, whether it's maybe a mentor or someone seeing you matter. You hand someone a card, Mark, and that changes their lives, right? And my book is about that. It doesn't matter what you're going through or what you've gone through. Your past defines you, but you get to determine how your past defines you. Because a lot of people say, don't let your past define you. And I hate that statement. Your past will define you, but you get to determine how your past defined you and how you move forward in the future.
We're all human beings. I love that answer. We're all human beings. We all have the dignity of choice. So you
That's
get to
right.
choose what you're going to do because everyone has things happen to them, right? Everyone you'll ever meet in your entire life is going through something. So
That's
it's what
right.
you're doing about that something to change yourself. And then in turn, by doing that, change others. And we all learn from your scars. We all learn from
That's
everyone's
right.
scars, right? It's hard to
Yep.
share the wounds and not think not people think you're complaining, but when you share the scars, that's a big lesson for anyone that's listening and wants to,
That's
take
right.
that in and be aware of what can happen. So you think that's the greatest challenge you've overcome is getting that book out and publishing?
I have overcome many challenges, but that's my most recent, and I feel like it's so fresh on my mind. So I feel like it is in this period of my life the biggest challenge that I've accomplished.
Can you explain to us why your family was against you doing that?
I think when I look back, I didn't understand it at first because there was so much emotion in what was going on, right? I didn't understand it at first, but when I look back and I assess it and I processed it through, one, I think there was a lot of guilt, right? There was a lot of guilt to go around. I'm the youngest of 10. I was being abused. Nobody noticed, right? And secondly, like I said, in our culture, we don't talk about that stuff. It's very taboo to go out and talk about arranged marriages, talk about abuse from your husband, and then family not supporting you. So it was a combination of things that caused half my family split. Half of them supported me, and then the other half was like, they still don't talk to me to this day.
It's tough. Where were you born in America?
No, I was born in Guyana, which is located in South America. A little tiny country, very poor third world country.
So how did you get to the United States?
That That's part of my story. I
Okay.
got through United States. I was put into an arranged marriage, and 3 years later, my ex-husband sponsored me, and 3 years later, he brought me to the United States. Um, at at my protest, I told my family he's going to kill me. I know he's going to kill me. I can't come with him because he was abusive. He was violent drunk, a very violent drunk. But I was told this happens in our culture. It's okay. I just need to get used to it, and I just need to learn to be obedient to my husband. So he brought me after 3 years of marriage. Sponsor brought me to America, and should I go on?
Keep going.
um, I didn't have any family here when he brought me, so I lived in a home with him and his family, and there were rules I needed to live by, and those rules were I wasn't allowed to have friends, I wasn't allowed to drive, I wasn't allowed to go back to school. They put me to work as a cashier at a drugstore. I wasn't even allowed to shave my legs, Mark. It was that no control over my body. It was the ultimate dominant and control over you. Like if you can't do basic things with your body, that's just the epitome of controlling. Um, I did that for I worked at the drugstore every day. My life was I'll get to the train station from 5 to 5:10. I'll sit there and consider jumping in front of the train. I did that for 5 years, sitting at the train station every day, contemplating which train I would jump in front of. A year later, after I came to America, I gave birth to this beautiful baby boy, and I just didn't know how to be a mom or anything like that. But sometimes, and I say something so drastic have to happen that it shakes you up and it shakes you out of your self pity. And that was when my son was being abused. The first time he was abused, the mama bear instinct came out. And in a nutshell, I just knew that this was a pivotal moment in my life. This actually, my little boy, 4 years old, was trying to protect me because his father had me on the floor and was strangling me. And that was such a pivotal moment when I realized what was happening. Like, he should not be protecting me. I brought him in this world. I should be protecting him. And that really, really changed. That was the first resilient thought I've ever had, Mark. The first resilient thought in my whole life. And that just changed my perception because now I'm not living for me, which I was just existing for me. I need to live for this little boy. I need to get out of this existed mode and start living for him. So I started talking to people, made a plan, and a few months later, I took my boy, I called a cab, got my own place, and I ran off.
That's quite a story. I mean, so that I was going to ask you the question, was there a defining moment in your life? You just explained that. That was a defining moment. So I mean, you
Yes.
were abused and then you see your son being abused and that triggers you to say, you know what, I got to do something about this. I can't live in this existence anymore. We all face those times in our lives where like we have to get up off the mat and make something happen or
Hmm.
else you're just going to continue to live that life and nothing will get better. It sounds like you compromised a lot in your life to get to that point. And sorry that you suffered that way. Sounds like it was tough. I was going to ask you the question, was there a time in your life you felt like you didn't matter? And I would assume that what you talked about living in Guyana and when that relationship was a time that you weren't feeling the best about yourself.
Yeah, the first And I look back and I think it's so sad, but I also look back and know I wouldn't want to change this for anything in my life because it defined who I am today. But for the first almost 30 years of my life, I lived it in a sense that I didn't matter. And I didn't. I didn't matter to anyone. I really didn't. So I was just like I said before, I was just existent. I didn't matter. And this little boy, 4 years old, he changed all of that and made me realize I have a purpose. And for that season of my life, he was my purpose.
So do you believe now, and that so that was one season of your life. Do you believe now that you matter, you have a purpose, and why?
Yes. So let's start with I matter. I know, I saw, in hindsight is 2020, right? But I look back and I'm like, yes, I know why I went through all of that because I've seen my story change so many people. I've seen when they've read my book, they've called me up and said, I'm going through the same thing. I didn't think I could get out of it, or something to that effect. So I know I had to go through that. Um, I'm a believer, and I say scripture says God has a plan and a purpose for us. And when you find that plan and that purpose that you were designed for in this world, it becomes such a powerful and pivotal moment in your life. A lot of people live not knowing their purpose and realizing what your purpose is, and living out that purpose-driven life. It brings so much life and joy to you. And I realize mine is just helping people in whatever way I can. I know I everything I went through, I was meant to use that to help other people, to help them get that leg up in life.
That's a sign I keep on my desk. You just defined it, which is your struggle will be your gift that the world will fall in love with. And
Yes,
your struggle is what people will learn from. You can help other people like you're already doing, and like you said, you've done. And sharing that with other people gives them power to make them believe that they can get through whatever it is that they're going through, and maybe something similar. But you're definitely making an impact in the world, Sally, doing that. And I mean, do you believe that everybody matters? Is that a philosophy that you carry?
oh, absolutely. No, if you'd asked me so many years ago, I would have had a different perspective
Right.
because when you are living in that cloud, you can't, you're it's so debilitating mentally. But I totally believe everyone matters. And I totally believe that we all have a calling. And until we find that calling, sometimes we walk around in a fog not knowing what our purpose is on this earth. And when you discover that, it's one of the most powerful things to discover what your calling is. Um, and when I discovered mine, so there's seasons, right? The first time I discovered mine was my calling was to protect my little boy and to be living for him. And then as I keep moving forward in life, I keep seeing in different ways how my purpose and my calling start evolving and start growing, and it's pretty powerful. I have to tell you, to feel a sense of not just belonging in on Earth, but I am called to do this. I'm called to help people. Mark, if I don't volunteer, I am not living. I have to. I feel this hole in my heart if I'm not helping people.
So you're giving back all the time, right? And when you
Yes,
put out whatever you put out in the universe, it comes back to you 1,000 times over. That's great, Sally. Like I said, you're making a big difference. But what did you do? So your son becomes your purpose, and you get him, you get a taxi, and you get out. What actions did you take then to get where you are now, to build your mindset back up, to listen to your calling? I mean, was it something that I've heard a line that your soul doesn't shout to you, it whispers. There's a dream that you have inside of you, and you can't really hear. It's not loud.
yes,
You got to really listen closely because it's whispering to tell you, hey, this is your calling. What did you do for yourself? Because action creates motivation. So it's not just, oh,
right,
I'm now motivated to do things. You actually have to do steps and many times take massive action to make changes in your life. So
yes.
what was the process to get Sally Allen from running away from something that obviously wasn't working for you to where you are today?
You know, that one act that I did, running away, it switched my mindset. But in Mind Power, we did the running parachutes, right? And one of the things what happens is we're carrying so much baggage with us, which I was carrying. I realized my biggest baggage was I couldn't look people in the eye when I spoke to them. I was so terrified of men, authority figure, because we grew up in a culture where you look down when you walk. You basically speak when you're spoken to. So that fear of people, I had to get over that. And I worked at a bank, and every single day I had a 4 inch thick um, glass, and my customers on the other side, and I would force myself to look up 1 second, look them in the eye, and look down. It was the scariest thing I've ever done at that point in my life, and every single day I did that, and I did it for 2 years before I was able to master it and look people in the eye, because different cultures operate differently. But I know in America, if you can't look people in the eye, you're not getting anywhere. You have to be able to be confident. So I realized even throughout that time, as I was doing that, I was still broken. I was still insecure. I had no self esteem. So one of the things I realized I needed to do was get a tribe around me. I got a tribe of very, very strong women who I have this saying that I say, when you don't have belief in yourself, you have to borrow beliefs from other people. And I borrowed beliefs from these women. And I went from the ground up, and they just kept lifting me up and lifting me up and lifting me up. And I just started growing. They just started showing me how brave I was and the things I did. And everything in my life, how it was going, they just kept elevating me. So I knew my getting through that, learning to look people in the eye, getting a tribe to help me, to show me how and when and where I needed to grow, and that really really helped. But the one thing I did after I've gone through everything, and I got to a place where I can sit down and write my book. There were some processes that I did put in place, and the first one was, when I look back, it was values. Like, values are so important to me, and my values were health, faith, family, impact, and value. And everything that I did had to align against those values, right? um, that's one. Making every day meaningful, and using my story in a meaningful way to help people, right? And then self care. Like, it was so important. Like, Mark, I didn't know what self care is. I was probably 35 years old before I realized, oh, self care is actually taking care of you, your mental health and your physical health. So that's really important. And I think one of the most important thing for me was staying hopeful. I think, the past is the past, it's gone, but you can look forward to the future, and you have control of where you're going right now, so you can live hopeful. So those are some of the things that I put in place as I evolved over the years.
You're right, though. It's a great line because the past is the past, and the only person keeping the past alive is you. So it's
That's
gone.
right.
You can't change it. It's not nothing that's happened is can ever be changed, but you can look forward. You live in the present and look forward to the future, and then
That's right.
have dreams, take actions, and manifest what it is that you want. It sounds like you've done a great job of that. What led you into wanting to be a coach? Did you start the coaching business before you wrote the book, or after?
I started it in 2016. I published my book in 21. So I had been an assistant, an executive assistant slash office manager for most of my life. And I loved it so much because I love helping people that I thought I'd be doing that for the rest of my life. And I'd gone to my boss, and I'm like, what do I need to do to grow in this role and move up? And he just looked at me and said, why don't you think about what you want to be when you grow up, Sally? Because what he had seen and I didn't see is that I was coaching and mentoring people in the business. 65% of the time I'm in the cafe coaching and mentoring someone, and he had seen that. And I build bridges behind the scenes. Like, one of the things I'm good at doing is building bridges with my bosses and their direct reports, and I'm good at doing that. So I went back to my desk, and I was sitting there, and all of a sudden I got this email from this John Maxwell group, and it said something to the effect of, if you want to be a certified coach, it was just the eeriest thing, right? It happened within 5 minutes. And I read it and it clicked. And I ran back to my boss's office and I said, I know what I want to be. I want to be a coach. And he said, then go and be a coach. So I went and I got certified a few months later. At the company I worked at, they were really nice. My boss was so supportive. I started coaching and mentoring there because I started doing leadership training as a practice because the business didn't have it at the time. And I showed the business that there was a need and I started doing it. Um, and it evolved into a role. When I left the business, that had evolved. I built a role for myself where I was coaching top talent with the business and my job was to keep like the cream of the crop within the business and create programs and how to keep them. So the role had evolved into something like that, and I absolutely loved it. So when I left, I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna start my own. Not start. I had started my business. I'm going to run with my business full time, publish my book, run with my business, and see what happens. And it worked out beautifully because I was always mentoring, coaching people, and networking. So I knew a lot of people. So it just took off.
So you surrounded yourself with a great tribe, right? And
Yes,
then you focus on one thing and it comes to fruition. You hear about coaching and then something pops up and you're like, I want to do this now. You start practicing it at your work, and next thing you know, you're taking off by yourself. So you followed all the right steps. It sounded like it was a great progression, the natural steps of growing something. How do you build your own? I'm sure a lot of people who want to be coaches are going to ask this question. How do you build a good coaching business? What are the secrets, Sally, to building a coaching business?
the truth is you have to genuinely care about people and you have
That's
to
a good start.
genuinely, yes, you have to genuinely love what you do. I love different methodologies. You saw I'm an international coaching federation certified coach. I started looking at different methodologies to see which one I like and which one mesh with my personality and what I like to do. So I got certified through them and I learned a lot of their competencies that helped me so much and elevated my coaching skills. And I had the John Maxwell certification. And then we did the Mind Power, which added more tools to my tool belt. And I am doing another course right now. I'm constantly educating myself because I never want to be stale for my clients. So I think being a lifelong learner, learn methodologies, learn different things so that you're not stuck in one place doing one thing, but you have different strategies for different clients because no client is cookie cutter. They need
True.
different things. So you want to equip yourself with as much tools as possible to be able to help them.
Every human being is different, right? And we are
Yes,
all also predictably irrational as human beings. So we we all come with different flaws, but
that's
talents,
right.
skills, abilities, and education experience. So it's impossible. I agree with
Yeah,
you to have one set of rules or techniques to follow for one individual. We're all
right.
we're all broken in different places. We're all just tall, wounded children. That's how we get through life.
Yes,
And so we just get
yes,
taller, but we don't, you carry, like you said, you are defined by your past, but you can make choices to move away from it and do something about it. So like we learned in releasing your running parachutes, I'm sure that was a big thing for you with the mind power breakthrough, to let go of that and say, I'm not going to,
yes,
I wasn't that person. I'm not that person now. This happened, and let me release
yeah.
myself from that and no longer hold that as a crutch, that this is the way I am. Let me work on myself to become who it is that I believe that I am.
Yes, and one of the things I learned through that, which I was curious to see what my running parachutes were, is that, and even my coach was surprised that I had no anger. And
Mm.
I love that, finding out that despite what I've been through, I hold no anger or unforgiveness against anyone. I had different things. I worked through limiting beliefs, but when it came to the anger and the unforgiveness, I I I had gotten to a place where I came to terms and peace with it. So I didn't struggle with that. And I'm glad I because you never know where you're at. Like you have to sit down and be intentional to go through that exercise we did to kind of figure out, psychologically where you're at. And I'm glad I that was revealed to me. That was very eye opening.
I bet. I mean, what's the greatest thing you can do for yourself is to forgive. no matter what, because you're doing it for you, not for
That's
the
right.
other person. You're doing it for yourself, and you don't have to forget, but you have to forgive. If not, Wayne Dyer's got a great line. He talks about, there's a snake bite and there's the venom. Snake bite
Uh-huh.
hurts, but the venom, if you keep it inside of you, will never go away and lead you to an early death because you'll never let go of it. You've got to release the venom. And again, you don't have to forget, but you got to forgive. If not, it's really hard to move through life. You can't carry grudges. You can't really walk around with regret either. We're always moving forward every single day. We're all here a very short time on this planet. And it's our goal, our responsibility to be able to do all we can with all we have been given, no matter what the circumstances of your past. You have a clear present and future, right? It can be a shiny
Yeah.
future. So I think you're doing great work out there in the world. Um, Tell me more about the book. How can people? You said it's on Amazon. They can get it.
Mhm.
Triumph over failure and fear. Right.
I'm here. Yes, yes, yeah. It's on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and wherever. Just type it in Google. The Google thing. It comes up.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, what does Sally Allen want to do next? I mean, I've seen you out there on social media doing your volunteering, doing all these great. I saw you on an event with I think a lot of women. I'm not sure what that was, but
Yes.
was it an empowerment group you were with?
Um, it was a speaking event. I actually was asked to share my story.
Great.
So yeah, and it was very powerful. It's been a moment since I shared my story with a large group. Since this year, I think this is the first time. Um, and it was so powerful. I'm wearing my glasses, so I couldn't see in the back of the room, but I could hear people cheering and laughing. But at the end, so many people came up and they were like, "You made us cry, you made us laugh. It's such a powerful story." And then another woman came up from the Salvation Army, and she's like, "I'd love for you to come speak to our audience in June." So I have another speaking engagement off of that engagement. So it was very rewarding knowing that my story is making a difference. And that's what I wanted. It was the only reason I wrote my book. I was accused of, well, you're going to make so much money and millions of dollars from your book. I'm like, gosh, I didn't even make half of what I spent to publish it. I just wanted to help people. And so when that happens, I get so overwhelmed by it, like, God, you're using me the way I knew you would. And I feel so honored. I feel so honored.
That's a great line. God, you're using me the way I knew you would. That's the truth, right? Because
Yeah.
we're all
Yeah.
here for a purpose. We got to find out our why. Do you still have any relationship at all with your husband? Does he?
He passed away 3 years
Oh,
ago.
okay,
Yeah, he passed 3 years ago. God bless his soul. Yeah, uh, hopefully he's in a better place. He was a
right.
tortured soul. Yeah,
Well, obviously, again, he carried out that torture, unfortunately, in other ways. It's amazing,
yeah,
how what you focus on expands. I talked to someone else just a couple of days ago with a very similar story in a different country, and her story was very similar to yours. And just it's tough, and I'm glad that you were able to break away from that. Other thing I realize is that the most broken people are the most beautiful. You're a
yeah.
beautiful being. You got a great smile,
Thank
bright
you.
eyes, and
Thank
it's
you.
amazing when you go through a lot of stuff how your spirit like carries through your being, right? Your features, your face, the way you carry yourself, and the compassion, empathy, and joy you want to give to other people. It's I don't know what the word I'm looking for. It's like it's not a manifestation. It's an amplification of who you are inside by the way you look at the world and the way you present yourself. And you're doing just a tremendous job of that. And I couldn't be happier to have you on the You Matter Show podcast. It's really an honor to have
Gosh,
met
I
you.
didn't think I could be embarrassed by all these things you're saying.
It's just,
Thank
I'm
you. My
being
face
real,
is
right?
getting warm. I'm dark, so you can't see that I'm red. But listen,
I'm
thank you.
just
I
being,
appreciate it.
I'm being honest. I've seen that. I've seen it time and time again. So
Yeah,
the fact that you have the courage to do what you did to break away and then to take what your story is and share it with the world. Look, stories are how we all define ourselves. It's a thread that runs
right.
through our entire lives. It's the tapestry of our souls, and we can't live without it. Stories are so
Yeah,
important. I mean, I have a business called Storytelling for Business, trying to help recruit and I do it for the insurance company, tell people stories, agents, leaders, to help bring people to the opportunity. Because when you read a story,
Mhm.
a couple things
Mhm.
happen. Either you empathize with what they've gone through,
Mhm.
because like I said, everyone you'll ever meet in your entire life is either going through or has gone through something, or you look at that story and go, wow, if they can do this, if they can live, if they can be a brighter soul in this world and make a difference, so can I. Because what you
That's
think you're
right.
going through compared to what other people are going through, believe me, there's a saying that if you got around the table with 10 people and they all tossed their problems onto the table, you'd grab yours
Mhm.
back so fast it would make your head spin. You don't want what they've been through, right? So
Right. Right.
once again, you're doing amazing things in the world. What's next for Sally? What's next for Sally Allen? Where are we going with all of this? What's your big, hairy, audacious goal? What's your big effing goal, as Stephen Shea would say?
You know what? I want to get on a TEDx stage.
Good.
So I applied to be on that TEDx stage. That's big goals. Um, it's a scary one for me, putting myself out there. But I think my other big goal is I want to continue to grow my business. I want to 5x, 10x my business, um, and I want to not forget my why. While I'm 5x or 10x my business, my why is just helping people to reach their full potential. Whatever I do in life, it has to align to that I am helping people to reach their full potential, and that so that they can make an impact. Um, so that's it. I don't have one thing in particular. I'm a lifelong learner, so I'm always in a course or out of a course or in the middle of a course or learning something, reading something. That's next, but I'll keep you posted when I'm approved for that TEDx.
I can't wait. I want a front seat to that. If it's going to be live, I want to see if I can get to that, get in the audience and see you speak. I also have a similar goal to get there eventually too, to do a TEDx talk, and
That's it. Promises. I'm gonna be at yours. You're gonna be at mine.
that's cool. I'd love to do that. That'd be
Yeah.
fantastic. I really appreciate you being here, Sally. It's been a joy getting to know you. I thank you for sharing your story and having the courage to do so, and having the courage to get out there and share that with other people and help them along the way. Like I said, become the very best version of themselves, because that is the juice of life, is progress. We all think we want
Yeah.
other things, but we want to make progress. We also want to feel, which is why I have my You Matter movement, to feel valued and appreciated, because everyone wears an invisible sign around their neck that says, make me feel important. And our
Yeah.
greatest
Yeah.
our greatest craving in life is to feel that we matter and that we
That's
can
right.
make a difference in the world. However you want to do it, doesn't mean you have to do big things. It could be something small, but we're all here for a reason. We all want to make a difference, and we all want to make sure that we're making the planet a better place. And then when we leave, because we're here for a short time and we're just these little blips right on this big blue spinning orb, that perhaps we can make a dent in the universe. And you're already a universe denter. So I'm proud of you. Like I said, it's an honor to get to know you, and I can't wait to see what you're gonna do.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm honored to be here, and I hope that somewhere, somehow, this message reaches somebody and helps them.
I'm sure it will. So how do we find you all over social media? You got the podcast. What are the ways to get in touch with Sally Allen?
All over the place. So if you just type in Sally Allen podcast in Google, everything pops up. Type in Sally Allen podcast, my podcast will pop up, my Instagram, my Facebook, everything pops up. So Sally Allen podcast in Google.
Good. And you're popping up all over the place. So thank you for making a difference. Thank you for being here. You definitely matter. Everyone does. But we will be
Thank you.
talking soon. So thank you, Sally.
Thank you.
Take care.